My name is Michael Allred, and formerly with a large healthcare company, here in Utah, and where I was over identity and access management. And today we're going to talk about something that I think most of you know and dealing with, and this is just not staying on my ear at all. Okay, this is really confusing. So let's just talk about the problem. So I'm going to start with, who here is willing to give me one of their current passwords? I'll sweeten the deal, okay? Snickers bar, king size Snickers bar. Raise your hand or come up here. Okay, right back here. Any password, you can change it afterwards. Okay. 98 Durango. Okay, great. Here, you can come get this. I'm not going to throw it that far. I'll just put it down here on this table. Okay, got a Milky Way. Who else is willing to give me a password? Raise your hand. Here, I'll chum the water a little bit. Okay. We'll get to you here in a second. I'll chum the water a little bit. Who has the oldest unchanged password in here? Shout out a year. Anybody got one over 10 years old that they shouldn't change, John? Over here, how old?
Probably
15, 20 years old. Okay, anybody else? Got a really old password? Okay, you want to give me your password?
Password 1234.
Password's 1234. On one of your test accounts. I'm pretty sure there's some test accounts I could probably get into at a certain healthcare company. So I think all of you are aware of the problem of the rise in phishing attacks, right? I had to dress up after the Dark Net Diaries guy. I'm like, I got to step my game up, man. I got to come prepared. I can't just show up. So we've seen this huge rise in phishing attacks over the last few years, and we'll go through some statistics here. Go back to my other slide. We'll go through some statistics here in a second, but phishing scams have just been getting more and more increasing in sophistication, more widespread impact beyond just, we often think of phishing as just download ransomware or whatever, or maybe give up my password, but more and more they're, hey, transfer my money, hey, I'm the, come from the CFO to the CEO, hey, we got to transfer $5 million to this account, so all of these just constant, password attacks, business email compromise and that, and the evolving techniques are just getting more and more. So the more we go along, sorry, I'm moving too much. I'll try to hold on to this so I don't lose so much. But all of these techniques are evolving and making it more and more complicated. And I think we all know this as cybersecurity people. So I have just a couple numbers that I found from some different websites and that. So, the big problem is the foundation of our authentication system that is based on passwords is fundamentally flawed, right? Because we've built these systems for years based on passwords, for 70 years, based on passwords. It's fundamentally flawed because people choose weak passwords, and we all know the issues with passwords. But 81% of the hacking-related breaches are, going after those stolen passwords that might be from a phishing attack. 43% of the people, this is somewhat related to passwords, but the issues with passwords, 43% of the people give up ordering, and I got to say, I'm in that 43%, right? I go somewhere and I got to set up an account and set up a password. I'm like, what the crap? I'm out of here. I don't need pizza that bad. Or, I went to a campground recently and I'm like, really? You need me to set up an account to pay for a night at your campground? Like, so you can what? Spam me? Send me what are you going to send me? So a lot of people give up on those passwords, rise in direct financial loss from that. So this thing just is not staying on my hair. I don't know if it's my hat or what it's or just my moving around. Okay. I'll try not to move so much. So we all know there's just a ton of problems with passwords. And then the rise in phishing attacks are just coming. 341% increase in malicious phishing links, 856% increase in malicious email messages. These are all coming from people like Proofpoint, all these people tracking that. Increase in credential harvesting. We see this all the time, right? There's this constant rise in these password attacks. And AI just adds fuel to the phishing fire, right? And yes, that's an AI-generated fish on fire there. But so there's just a rise in phishing attacks. All these companies have seen this. All these companies that track that. Rise in credential harvesting. Consumers, and even our consumers, I think a lot of our families, I probably shouldn't play with this, but it keeps sliding down my ear. It's all good. So consumers have noticed this, the sophistication of increased email attacks. I mean, I go in fact, just the other day, I reading through my email. I'm like, what? Somebody wants me to download this PDF of a invoice that I didn't pay or whatever. I never even heard of this company. I'm just gonna click that as fish. So what are our traditional methods of stopping or slowing down phishing, right? So one of the ones we hear a lot about, email filtering. Some of you may run the email filtering. What's the big problem with email filtering? What's one of the challenges you have? False positives, false negatives, right? So the more you tighten down, I think we all know this, the more you tighten down the control, the less email gets through, the more you get calls. Hey, I was expecting this email from somebody and I didn't get it. Or if you let the user go in and release their own email, their own email from the email filter, what happens? They release them all, right? They're like, I just want to see them all. I know we have, executives, others tell us all the time, hey, just send me everything. I'm smart enough to figure out what's there. Plus with AI, the AI is allowing those emails to be a lot better. It used to be you could tell, hey, they misspelled things or they did different things. You could easily tell a phishing email. Now they can generate it all through email. There's whole campaigns based on AI. You go out and buy how many emails you want to send. You want to buy a list of compromised emails. And so there's just a lot more going on through email. So another method we use, security awareness training, right? We love to train our people, try to convince them. So going to give out some more candy here. Who has fallen for their internal company's email campaign? Okay. If hopefully I don't hit you, there's one for you, Matt. Hopefully I got those far. Who else? If you're too far back, I'm not going to chuck it that far. So you'll have to come and get one afterwards. But anybody else? I have. Yeah, one time. Here we go. Yeah, nothing more embarrassing than your security guy falling for the email phishing thing, right? I've done it. Get the email, you're busy, you got 200 emails in your queue, and you get this random email that's like, your UPS package can't be delivered. And you're like, what the crap? Do I have something coming in? You click on it, and you're like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And, there you are. You fell for the phishing email. And I think we all know, we train our users, and they're still, 25% or, what's the numbers, if you look at your numbers in your company, that fail the phishing test every time you do it, quarterly, yearly, whatever you're doing it. People just fail that. They fall for it. They're busy. So I'm not against email filtering or security awareness training, but it still is not a perfect thing. Multi-factor. So everybody should have multi-factor on everything you can, every external thing. Definitely a great thing, but multi-factor is not impenetrable, right? So you can get, MFA bombing. How many of you have heard of MFA bombing? How many of you experienced that, where you just constantly get the notifications to approve your MFA, and they do that till you're like, okay, whatever, and you push the button, and then they're onto your account. Or, again, we're smart enough, we'll be like, wow, this is annoying. What's going on here? The average consumer is not going to do that. They're just going to say, oh, I guess I need to hit the button that says approve this MFA. So that's okay. Yeah, he's going to tape me up here, stick it to the side of my head. So I don't know if that'll help. Okay, good. Whoops. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll see if that works better. You guys can hear me. Okay, so MFA bombing, you can spoof the OTP codes, SMS. I used to be one of those that think, hey, SMS is good enough, right? It's better than nothing. Well, it is better than nothing, but there's so many attacks against it now. Between SIM swaps, I've talked to multiple people about SIM swaps. I had somebody recently, went in and bought a bunch of iPhones on my provider account, my phone provider account, and called them. Luckily, I got the text message, hey, your new iPhone's been activated. I'm like, what the crap? I did buy a new iPhone. I wouldn't buy an iPhone. And there was 4 of them bought on my account, and I had to convince them, look, I'm not in New Jersey. I've never been to New Jersey to go to that store. Why would I go buy 4 phones in New Jersey? And it took me a lot of convincing to get the provider to take those off my account. So it happens. SIM swap happens. All those things. So gotta have something better. So what do all these have? What do all these traditional methods have in common? Tell me, what do they all have in common? There's 2 things, pretty obvious. First thing is they all have passwords in common, right? So all of these methods at some point still use a password to get into your account. So they all have passwords in common. Well, apparently I'm not supposed to hit the keyboard. Okay, the other thing they have in common is humans. Right? So, and we all know those are probably the 2 weakest links in our organization. We've got firewalls, we got MFA, we got all this stuff that really protect our organizations. And it comes down to these 2 things are our weakest link: passwords and humans. And as security people and probably IT people, we'd always say, hey, if we could get rid of our end users, it'd be a lot more secure around here. I think we've all had those thoughts or said that to our team. And that's the challenges we have. At the end of the day, it comes down to those 2 weak links. So let's talk about some possible solutions here. So how many of you have heard of passkeys before? I see a few hands out there, maybe 50%. So passkeys, I think hopefully a lot of you have heard of the FIDO Alliance. The FIDO Alliance was created a number of years ago. It stands for Fast Identity Online. And they really wanted to come up with a way to eliminate the password and move to a passwordless society. And so at the time, you heard a lot of things, FIDO keys. They used the term FIDO. And recently, they've changed to use the marketing term of passkey. So passkey is really all the standards set up by FIDO, WebAuthn, all the previous stuff that FIDO had set up is now being marketed as an easier term, I think, for the end user, right? Passkey makes a lot more sense than, hey, use your FIDO key or whatever. They're like, I don't even know what that means. Why using an acronym? So let's delve into what is a passkey. So a passkey is a cryptographic key pair. So you have, it's using KPIs using public-private keys. So you generate a private key that you store locally, and then a public key that's on the server. And those key pairs are tied to you, your account, and the website, right? So you can't use that on another website. That's one of the issues with passwords, right? Is I get bored. I can't think of my password. So I just use the same one over and over. What was it? Password 123 or whatever. So we use those same passwords over and over all the time. I should have told you, a password. So I always choose passwords from song titles, maybe the artist, maybe other things. So one of the ones I used to use a lot is Welcome to the Hotel California, right? I can tell you that, but then you got to guess how I took that big long phrase and turned it into, 8 to 12 characters, right? Switching out characters, abbreviating things. So there are ways to create great passwords. But with a passkey, there's no password involved. It's just this cryptographic key pair between the website and your security device or your authenticator. And it's 1-to-1. So if they give out your public key, it doesn't really do you any good unless they can reproduce their SSL key and send you that signed thing by public key. We'll talk about how that works. But so they can compromise your public key. If they compromise your password, you're in trouble. But they get your public key can't be used without you doing something and going to a website that triggers that. So let's talk about phishing resistance, because that's ultimately at the end of the day, what we're looking for is a more resistant to phishing method, right? So on this right-hand side are things that can get phished: SMS, email magic links, a bunch of other things that can get phished fairly easy. The user goes to a website and says, "Hey, enter your code," or goes to a website and text them a message, "Hey, enter the message I just sent you." So all those things can kind of be, or you send that email to that magic link to your Gmail account. Well, you don't know, Gmail account already been compromised. The person logs in and now can authenticate into your whatever site. Reset your passwords. Usually, a lot of times, what they do. So as you move across to that left-hand side over there, or at least my left-hand side, your right-hand side, as you move across over there, it gets more and more phishing resistance we'll talk about synced passwords, as they get device-bound, smart keys, as they get more and more tied to a hardware device, they become harder to phish because they're tied to a hardware device. I left my hardware devices in my backpack. But maybe at the end I'll run down and grab them. Okay, so let's talk about the flavors of passkeys. So passkeys come in kind of three basic flavors. The first is fairly new, a syncable passkey. This uses some type of third party to sync your public or your private key to your multiple devices. So previously, FIDO passkeys was tied hardware bound to your device, your laptop, your phone, a security token, whatever it is, smart card. They were tied to that. Well, that's great, but there's some challenges with that, right? There's some challenges if I lose my physical token. If I don't have access to my phone. If I have that, then my passkey is basically not able to get reused, or just, I get a new phone, it wipes out all my passkeys or whatever, or a laptop. So now they've released this syncable method for third parties, like the iOS iCloud keychain, Google Password Manager. They can actually sync your private key between devices and keep those secure. And then you still have the device-bound one. So like Windows Hello, though I think Microsoft recently announced they're going to be able to sync passwords too, but Windows Hello can store on your TPM chip in your computer your passkey, right? So it's tied to that device. Mac OS can be tied to that physical device. And so device-bound and hardware-bound, I separate them. They're really quite similar. The difference is portability, right? So hardware-bound, this is a picture of a YubiKey there. So there's other keys, security keys out there like YubiKeys, Google Titan, Talos has some. There's lots of vendors that have produced these cryptographic little keys that you plug into your USB drive, and they allow you to take that and plug it in different computers or pull it out when you're not in use. And one of the things with FIDO is that there's some important things with FIDOs and passkeys. One is the user has to take action. So in order to use this, the user always has to take action. They have to, do a biometric. They have to enter a PIN, to unlock the safe, right? They have to do something. Or unlock your YubiKey. You see the little Y there in the middle. You have to touch that. Some of those YubiKeys have fingerprints if you want to get biometrics on your security key. So you have to take action in order for that. So they can't just try to steal your passkey off your device. There has to be an action taken by the end user. That's an important security measure with that. So let's talk about passkeys. This passkey synchronization is really the next evolution of passkey. And if you read the NIST documentation, NIST 863 is all about identity, authentication, authorization. And previously they said that you could not remove or move or copy your public or your private key to another device. That was just a no-no. Well, they've made an amendment just recently to the 863 document that says you can for the different. There's three levels of I was going to say access is not access, but three levels that prove who you are, and one of those 1 and 2 can actually be synced to other devices. 3 still has to be on a physical card for the government and others. So a physical card that you cannot get that cryptographic material off of there. So this enables really deployment at scale. Much like a password, you can deploy passkeys and scale, and they make it more usable for consumers, end users, the rest of the world, right? Because it becomes much more like a password. I can set it up on my phone, and it'll sync to my my Chromebook, or it'll sync to my Windows laptop. I can set these up with a password manager, or like Bitwarden or Dashlane or OnePass. So I think all of those now support being the passkey holder, where you store your cryptographic passkey. So it just makes it much more ubiquitous to use passkeys for more and more sites. And it really addresses the account recovery, right? So if I have to reset my phone, I set my passkey up on my phone. Well, my passkey's over in Google's password manager or whatever, my third-party password manager. When I reload that, it's back on my phone. So it really makes it so that they become much more functional. Users understand it a lot better. So here's kind of the flow of passkeys. Hopefully you can see that fairly well. Stole this from somebody else and just added a few things. But you have this authenticator in the middle, right? And so you make this request to a website. It sends you a signed challenge with your public key. You sign it with your private key, and those two together say, "Yep, that's who you are." Right. And it requires that gesture, right? I can't just hit a website and it can't just, force me, but then I got to actually do something to unlock my my private key. So the keys are stored, and again, it's per application, per website, per email address, username. Those are all just separate stored cryptographic material. And so you can unlock that keychain, or unlock that your private key, and sign that, send it back, and allows you to authenticate. And then this just shows the syncing. Syncing happens through this third-party thing. Okay, so these are some demo sites. So what things I recommend. Don't have time to show the demo, but if you go out here to these, and you can just search for passkey demo sites. There's a ton of them out there. But these are some general demo sites. WebAuthn.io, I think that's actually from the FIDO Alliance, which all of these you can go out, you can set up try setting up a passkey. All of you probably have a new enough, laptop, whether it's Apple or Windows, that'll allow you to generate that key on the device. If you have your iPhone or your Android phone, they're fully support now, so you can go out. A lot of your apps have it. In fact, how many of you have Discord on your phone right now? Okay, did you know Discord supports passkey? So go out today. You'll have to probably log out of the app. Go out today and set up Discord with a passkey. When you go to the login screen, you'll see a little thing there that says login with passkey. Just go through the generation. It'll set up your passkey on your phone. Pretty simple. I did that the other day. I'm always looking for new sites that have passkey. Don't have time for a demo, but this is the WebAuthn.io site. So when I hit that, I put in my email address. First thing it comes up and says, how do you want to store your passkey? Gives me my choices. You can see here, my phone's a Pixel 8 Pro, or you can choose another Android device or Apple device. I can do my security, my security key. I can use Windows Hello. So pretty easy to set that up. And these are just some of the vendors today. I'm sure all of these you've heard. PayPal, Shopify, Amazon, Kayak, and those the OnePass and Dashlane. They're both providers of passkey. And then the whole industry is starting more and more to use passkey. I set up my Sony PlayStation supports passkey. So I set that up with a passkey. So I've just been out constantly trying to find vendors, try to encourage, because I'm sure I'm the 1%, right? But trying to find places that do passkeys. Most of them have them right on their login screen. You hit the login screen, most of them have a little button there that says, sign in with a passkey, and then just go through and set it up. So This is my tagline here. It's time to stop phishing, get back to work, right? The more we can move away from passwords, the less we're going to be phished, the less our users are going to be phished. Definitely, your bank, any high profile account, I would definitely switch to passkey. I get kind of frustrated at those sites that don't have it. Sometimes I'll even email them about it. So call to action. Hopefully what you can take out of this. First, start with yourself. Use passkey where you can. Go out, find your bank account, start using passkey, switch off your password. Second, use a password manager. You can use, like I said, Dashlane, Bitwarden, and 1Pass. I know all support passkeys. I'm sure other ones, your other favorite ones do. Those are just ones that I've evaluated. I'm not saying go out and use those, but those are just some. And then once you kind of understand passkeys, and there's a number of these sites actually have the code to implement passkeys on your SSO or on your authentication site. So I think that WebAuthn, you scroll down, like there's every language you've ever heard of. Oh, you're doing it in Python or Java. You can go down and just, they've got code samples, GitHub, and GitHub supports passkeys, by the way. All those actually have, methods to teach you and give you code to implement passkeys in your organization. So start with the internal employees, a little easier to control. Move to your consumers or your external people. If we could get consumers, I think you'd lower your costs because they're not calling all the time to reset their password and that. So anyway, that's it. Encourage you to go out, use passkeys. Hopefully you got a few things out of this. Any questions or another chance for some candy? Any other passwords you want to share?
Right.
Yeah. Whoops. That one right there. Yeah, so your authenticator. So again, that's just the authenticator is kind of in the middle there, and it just stores. In my demo, you'd see Bitwarden. I have the plugin for Chrome, so every time I hit a site, try to do a passkey, it pops up. I don't want to store it in Bitwarden for whatever reason. I usually like to put it in something else. So I just cancel that, and then it'll pop up that screen I showed you with, okay, if you don't want to store it there, here's your Pixel 8, here's Windows Hello, here's what other method. If you haven't got a YubiKey or a FIDO token, go out. They're pretty cheap, $25 or whatever. I know YubiKey and others used to give them out. I think I have a Ping one and a bunch of other ones that I got at conferences. I was hoping one of these guys would be here this one so we could get some free YubiKeys out of them, but we didn't. So, any questions did you have on this?
Yeah.
Tap their key and pull their key in, but again, you're just signing that. So if they signed it from not the Amazon.com, right, and their certificate and that, it'd come to you and it would say, I don't have a passkey for that, and so you could set up a new passkey, but it wouldn't get your other passkey. So yeah, go out and play around with that. But yeah, that's kind of how it works because they're tied to your account and the site. So if you interject, like a Wells Fargo site gets misspelled, it's going to go, I don't know what site that is, and the URL doesn't match. So I'm going to create a new passkey. Won't get your old passkey. The other thing I've heard people say is, well, this is really not multi-factor, but it really is because you have this key exchange, but you also have to take something like a biometric or your PIN. So you have to do another step in order to give that passkey or sign that request from the site. So, okay, thank you. Anybody else want to give me your password? Come on up.